He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
Angry Mortgage is on the air.
Again.
Not canceled yet. Every once in a while, we do get the comment. Like I think maybe it's from a little old lady in Cornwall, who will say, "I don't believe the profanity is required. It'd be so much better if you weren't swearing." Well, all I can say is, bitches, we be swearing. That's it. It ain't changing.
When you have your own podcast, you can do whatever you want to do.
Little old lady in Cornwall, do whatever you want. That's fine. Anyway, back again. Ron Butler, Angry Mortgage, Natalie Butler, realtor extraordinaire, and here we're at. Here we sit. Today is we record on Thursdays. The Bank of Canada announcement is next Wednesday. Mm-hmm. The show goes on the air on Tuesday. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Bank of Canada stuff in a minute. But most important thing to know, most important thing going on in mortgage world in Canada right now, rates gone crazy. Rates gone through the roof. The mortgage rates have gone through the roof.
It is fucked up.
It is indeed. I mean, 5 straight weeks of increases. Today, the biggest jump in bond yields, and just spectacular, okay? Mm-hmm. We are now officially have the highest bond yield since the world financial crisis in 2007. We're surpassing them now. We're getting to the point where we're bigger and better than that, okay?
So what makes it that we're not in a financial crisis yet?
We're not in any kind of financial crisis.
So what's the difference between now and 2007? I guess
sure.
Is what
well,
I'm
the 2007 was totally different because what 2007 was the meltdown of really toxic U.S. mortgages.
Yes.
And those mortgages were sold to investment organizations all over the world. Like there's the sovereign wealth fund of Norway took a shit kicking on U.S. mortgages. So it spread everywhere. But the real problem was in the United States that they had gone through a period of time, starting in about 2002, where they had they'd really reached the zenith of securitization. So to make it quick, securitization behind a mortgage is that you take the mortgage, you bundle it into a big thing that could look like a bond, and then you put it in a marketplace and turn it into a bond, okay? Now, because the U.S. is very good at financialization, which is turning everything into a payment, they got better and better. They invented this. They invented this whole securitization thing. A guy named Lou Ranieri invented it in the 1980s, but they just took it to the final point, okay? They took it to a point where they said, well, real estate in the U.S. is just solid as a rock. These mortgages are solid as a rock. We got credit rating agencies who give us AAA ratings on everything to do with mortgages. So let's start mixing it up a little. And the really big problem was that a bank could sell the mortgage to one of these investment organizations and take zero responsibility for it. Zero. They wouldn't keep it on their books. They wouldn't service it. Servicing, in other words, keeping track of the mortgage payments, keeping track of whether there was an NSF, keeping track of whether there was people's insurance on their house lapsed. That was all passed off to another company. Then the Norwegian Wealth Fund, by the way, I met those guys. I love you. Okay. They actually came and visited me once.
Nice.
Guys from the Norwegian Wealth Fund. They were like Vikings. Like the one guy,
the
one guy literally looked like a Viking. Like he was ready. If you grabbed a shield and a spear, he could slaughter everybody. Okay. I mean, they came to my office and visited me, and I thought, I even said to him, Jesus, you look like a Viking. Funny part was he wasn't Norwegian. He was Swedish. Worked in their offices in in New York, but he was just Viking all the way to me. Bottom line is the investment organizations bought the securitization wholesale. There's a servicing company that's looking after all the servicing of the mortgages. Okay. And the banks just sort of, if you're Merrill Lynch, you just sort of wipe your hands of it, or the Lehman Brothers was a perfect example. Lehman Brothers would just organize the sales and then walk away. Now, what happened was this is the story of the U.S. mortgage meltdown.
The Big Short.
The Big Short. They just went wild on product. They just like stuff that you would never do if you were a banker who held your own mortgages. They started doing. They started doing 100% mortgages to people with 525 FICO scores. But wait, there's more. They would say to the people with the 525, well, we're going to do like self-declared income. Like you write down what your income is on a piece of paper, sign your name to it. We're going to witness it. We're going to say that's your income.
Oh, that's always worked out well for everyone.
Like you might say to yourself, whoa, that's crazy shit. That no one would allow that. But here's what happened. It happened very gradually, just one thing at a time, just reduce the FICO score thing, then sort of leveraging the income thing. Then the ultimate shitstorm was, we're going to give you a mortgage where the initial rate is only 1.99. And in 5 years, it goes to 9.99. We call this an option arm. Okay. Now, here's the good news.
We're getting close to option arm numbers right now.
We are. But this is back in the day. This was back in the day. So it's all about, you weren't paying any interest. You weren't paying any principal for the first couple of years of the super low rate. Then the idea was always the mortgage guy or gal would tell you the same thing. We're going to switch you out at the end of the 5 years. You don't have to worry. We'll just refinance you again into another one of these.
Oh, super crazy.
Okay. And so you bundle all this insanity together. The crazy part was the really, really crazy part was that it worked for about 3 years. They kept layering on more stupidity. None of the mortgages broke. No defaults. And so the more that there was no defaults, the more they did wilder and wilder, because the ratings agency, this is the really crazy part. The ratings agencies, the guys who said whether this is AAA, AA, double B, piece of shit mortgage, the people who rated the securities kept saying, oh yeah, this is AAA. This is all AAA. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Like not perfect, but but it was sarcasm galore. Okay. But in the end of the day, it worked for a while.
Do you think it worked for a while until these people came up for renewal?
Well, they kept refinancing, right?
Yeah.
But there was just this moment in time when everybody realized this doesn't make no sense. The famous scene on The Big Short of the ballet. Ballet is also known as the exotic dancer bar. Okay. Go to the ballet. Guys are investigating the possible mortgage crisis. Talk to the lady who's doing her exotic dance. And she hears what they're saying about mortgages. And she says, would you think my mortgage is in trouble? And the guy paid by Steve Carroll says, well, maybe, could be. Well, what about my rental? I have a rental.
Didn't she have like 4?
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
In the end, it was 5 rentals.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, that's what happened.
That's when it's going to be a problem.
If you keep doing, the thing about the mortgage business is things go kind of slowly, right? Like it's about, even if, by the way, you don't even count a default in the mortgage business till they haven't paid for 90 days. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, what happened is it just blew the fuck up. It was the craziest thing. Like everything, the banks like Lehman Brothers went broke one day. Bear Stearns got sold for 10 cents on the dollar. I mean, all hell broke loose. I mean,
so we're not approaching those levels.
Not a chance. No. Not even close. Not even worth thinking about. Now, what's going on? Why have these fixed rates in Canada gone batshit crazy? We know the house prices are batshit crazy, but now the rates have gone crazy. And I know there's people in my audience who say, oh, we're very glad that the rates are going crazy. It will bring down the price of houses. Well, yes, it probably will eventually. It did from the absolute batshittiest craziness of 2021. Prices came down and rates came down in 22. Rates came down. Prices came down in 22. Rates were super high in 22. Prices came down in some cases as much as 20%. And then 2023 came along. Rates declined into the 4% range. There was a lot of 4% mortgages available. And prices went a little back up again. activity started. Things started to move. Mortgages started to happen. And now that we're back, where it used to be, 2-year rate used to be like 5.89, and now it's 6.79.
Yeah, that's high.
And it's just keep going up. It's just all the 3 years. We used to be able to get a 3-year fixed 4 months ago. As low as 4.59. Now everything's over 6. Like it's by next week, it's going to be like 6.19. It's going to be like
crazy.
3. That's a huge jump. It's going to keep jumping. I know I've talked about this before, but this last run in the last week, wild. We could have rate increases this week, and we could have the same bank raise rates again next week. I mean, we could be looking at record high fixed rates in Canada at the end of 2 weeks. Not saying it's for sure, but it ain't looking good.
They're trending like that.
And like I said, there's people in our audience who say to themselves, okay, we're good with that. We want to buy a home, and we want to see all these people get in trouble and have to sell their houses for cheap. And, we kind of like that. Or we have the people who are, I've told you about them before, the geezer group, the geezers. Okay. Like people my age or a little younger who say, well, I had to go through hard times, so you should go through hard. My mortgage rate used to be 18%. Like, fuck you, geezer. Okay. Honest, like you paid $179 for your house. So shut up. Okay. We've gone through that before, but why does this worry me? Why is this bad? And I'll tell you why it's bad. And we've said it before. It's the rents. Rents have gone
berserk.
Okay.
Absolutely insane.
And it's just hurting people, and it's going to continue to hurt people. But yeah. Oh, people have asked me like, well, why has this happened? Like, what? You said last week you didn't think some of the economic indicators were good. Well, here's what happened in the United States. On Tuesday, they published this Tuesday or Wednesday, they published this monster job success report, the job growth report.
Okay.
They had estimated 228,000 new jobs. That was their estimate. They got 460 some odd thousand new jobs. Like, holy shit. Like a double is a double, right? Like, like in crib, you got skunked. Okay, worse. I mean, double skunked, I think. Like, you're in trouble, but does anybody know what crib is out there? I don't know.
I know I bought you a board, but I don't know how to play it.
You don't know how to play it? Okay, so.
My dad.
Yeah, well, okay. So it's bad. It's like bad. It's like a basketball game where, the one team's 100 and the other team's 50. Like, it's bad. Okay. So bad in terms of good news for people who are having jobs, but bad for interest rates, because if you got a great jobs report, interest rates are going to stay high.
Because people can still afford it.
Because
they only go down when people can't.
Well, they go down when there's clearly a recession. Like, the bottom line is, these are all central banks, whether it's the Bank of Japan, the central banks in Europe, the Bank of England, the U.S. Fed in the United States, us in Canada, Bank of Canada. They need to know that there's a real recession going on, that there's real job losses going on before they even start to think about cutting. So here we are. But that's the reason. But there's other signs too. There was more signs of lending difficulties in China, like mortgage difficulties in China. Like, so much of the Chinese economy, similar to Canada, is built on building places to stay, mostly apartments, but they they build whole cities.
And that's a grossly densely populated country.
And they need housing, right?
More than ours.
It's interesting. They have nobody immigrates to China, right? And their one-child policy that they had for 30 years has kind of decimated the reproduction side of things, right? If you only have one child,
everyone wanted it to be a boy, so
they aborted too many of the girls, and that's bad. I hate to have to even say it because it's a horrible goddamn thing, but yeah, it's starting to catch up with them a little bit. But still, most dynamic economy in the world, and built on, to a certain extent, built on manufacturing and real estate. And the bank, their banks are starting to whine that there's not much mortgage activity. So is it possible China's economy is going to contract a bit? We don't know. But there are some not so hot signs that are out there about what's going on. And still positive job reports. And that just means the cuts to interest rates are farther and farther away. Because, people say, again, we have diverse opinions in the audience, but let me say this to everybody. I want everybody to know this. When you get a renewal, you get your letter from the bank, in the mail. Usually, it is snail mail still, right?
Oh,
yeah, it's still snail mail. So you get your renewal, and your interest rate goes from I just got off the phone actually with a guy. He says, I said, well, what was your old rate? He says, my old rate was 3.59.
What do they offer him?
The best deal he can get right now is 5.97.
That's a big jump.
Jesus, yeah. On $1 million.
Yeah.
On $1 million mortgage.
What's the payment like on that? I can't do it in my head right now.
What's the what on that? The
payment.
Increase? The payment? Oh, it's big. It's like, it's going up to like $5,000 or something. And it used to be like $3,500. So it's a big jump.
It's a huge jump.
Huge jump. And you can handle it. But he says, like, is there nothing to do? Is there nothing? I said, well, the bad news I got to give you, Mr. Customer, is the rate they're offering you is like 3 weeks old. And even though it was a little high back then, it's a deal now.
Yeah.
Because all the other rates, there is no more 2-year at 5.97. Does not exist. It is long gone. It is 6.39. It is 6.49. Okay. Oh, really? Oh, okay. I guess I better take it then. I said, well, that's all we can offer, right? That's all my only suggestion to you. But nobody's happy. And, sometimes what we got to realize is these big increases are coming to people. They have fixed incomes. Some of them have fixed incomes. I mean, it's not, if there's some widow in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia who's getting a nasty increase in her mortgage payment, right? There's a young couple in Brandon, Manitoba. Like the mortgages are smaller, but still the incomes are smaller sometimes.
Well, yeah, because you can't go up to your employer. Like, sorry, Mr. Employer, but my interest rate was X amount when I bought my house, but now it's doubled. So my payment's doubled. So now my salary is going to double. Yeah. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work that way. And by the way, that is actually a very, very critical point you just made. The wages for average working people in Canada has stagnated for years.
What is the average?
Well, the average income is for an individual in Ontario is like 60-some-odd thousand.
Yeah.
Okay. But that average takes into place like the bank CEOs at $2 million and all the way down to people working full time at McDonald's. Okay.
Or part time.
No. Well, the manager. Like if you're the manager, and you're
McDonald's actually has really excellent benefits if you're a full-time employee.
Yeah, they got good benefits, but the pay isn't so hot. I mean, it's not great. Bottom line is this. There has been stagnation. Like, let's face it, the CRA workers went on strike, and they went on strike and won, and their increase they won is 3%, a little over 3%. So when your mortgage payment goes up 25%, that's, to your point, you can't tell your employer, I need 25% increase.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the government union only got like 3 and a bit as an increase. That is not going to change anybody's life.
No,
okay?
Not life changing.
Not after the groceries have gone up like 15%.
And the car payments.
And the car payments. Oh, Jesus. Yes, the car payments. Now, Krista Freeland, the finance minister. Now, when I say Krista Freeland, the finance minister, I want to really put a big disclaimer behind this, okay? Because I actually hate making fun of people in government, ministers, and I don't like the bumper stickers that say "fuck Trudeau."
No,
okay,
tasteless.
Do I think his policies are wrong-headed? Do I think he is made mistakes? The answer is yes. But so has everybody else.
Yeah, show me someone in history in government that hasn't. Yeah.
The main thing I like to say to everybody is I don't think that Trudeau, the Prime Minister in Canada, comes from a place where he wants to do harm for Canadians. I think he wants to do good. Okay. I think he's just made policy errors, and same with Ms. Freeland. Bad policy errors. Too much theater, too much BS, not enough careful thinking of how economies really work. So I do think that, but I don't want anybody to say, that they're a gang of clowns or that there's no conspiracy of the World, Economic Forum, I don't like conspiracy stuff because I think that mostly you can find at the end of the day the strange things that happened are just the basis based on stupidity and laziness. Okay, that they weren't a bunch of people in a secret room in a cave, at the bottom
in
of
the
bump in a bat cave, thinking about
how can we screw
the world here? Okay, like I don't think every bad thing in the world is George Soros' fault. I mean, that's all crazy talk. But I will say that sometimes policies are wrong-headed. So the finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, came out with an announcement just yesterday. I think it was the day before. I think it was the day before yesterday, where she said, we have made a promise in my budget that we would provide great support to Canadian mortgage holders. And through our organization of FCAC, we have produced a code of conduct about lending, and that there must be various kindnesses shown to borrowers, where they will be such thing as there may be an opportunity to waive penalties. There may be an opportunity to hold back on payments. There may be an opportunity to reamortize, and we're going to make this part of the code of conduct. Well, that is such bullshit. Okay,
no,
like
I'm
it is
confused.
It's confusing, I know, because here's the thing: she's talking about a regulator who is about regulating sort of consumer financial behavior. Okay, financial institutions versus all the way down to the payday loans guys. Okay, it covers the gamut. Visa cards, you name it. So when she starts to talk like crazy shit, like we're gonna, in certain cases you should waive penalties.
A penalty is there for a reason. That's not fair to the bank. It's really not. That's how they make their money.
Here's the really important part.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to say to banks, you've got to quit charging penalties, they're going to say, okay, we'll just raise the rates some more.
Yeah. Because
guess what? A bank will find a way not to give away money. Okay. Like they banks are businesses that hate losses. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, they're so rich. They should do. But hold on a second. Like, first of all, her little piddly-ass regulator, supposed regulator, this little financial whatever the hell it is that they just came up with a couple of years ago, saying they're going to produce a code of conduct for banks. The bank regulator is completely different people, okay? It's the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions. And when they probably heard this shit about, oh, yeah, you should alleviate penalties, the guy who runs it, Peter Rutledge, probably said, what the fuck? What the fuck did she just say? I mean, like, because the way banks work is you have an interest rate that's based on the concept that if you break it early, there will be a penalty of some kind.
Correct.
We'll put it in your contract.
And you know what? 3 years ago, we were more than happy to pay those penalties. People were breaking to go into a better term.
Exactly. And they were paying the penalty. So
they're
now
paying
all
the
of a sudden,
penalty gladly.
Gladly. Okay. So all of a sudden the day comes when rates are going up.
Yeah.
And you say, well, yeah, if there's hardship, we don't have to pay a penalty. How the hell do you figure out what's hardship? I mean, and the most important point of all is when the bank struck the rate, the interest rate, the interest rates were all too high. Yeah, but nobody said they were too high when it was 1.49 for 5-year fix, right?
Nobody said they were too low. Got to put them up.
Yeah. I don't want to take your money, you sons of bitches. It's too low. Okay. No one ever said that.
Money.
Yeah. No one ever said that. So look, Minister Freeland, please think about your portfolio. Which is hard because she's also the deputy prime minister and she's more or less in charge of all the support for Ukraine and a million other things that she does. So it's literally ridiculous that the most important portfolio in the government, other than the prime minister, the most important job in the government, well, you should just do it part-time because you got a bunch of other things we're assigning to you as well.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy. Okay. So anyway, no, I'm not here to say the minister's a bad person, but I'm saying that the minister's this was a shit thing.
Maybe a little too much on the plate.
But no, it's just, of course she does. Absolutely she does. But and she, look, I think she's a very smart woman. Okay, I think she's very hardworking. There's some great things she's done. A lot of background things, like the work she did in free trade a couple of years ago was terrific. But hey, like, come on. Like, you run out to Canadians and say, oh, don't worry, we're gonna get the banks to waive some penalties if they should have to. They're not going to waive shit. Okay. they're not even, this little organization of yours is not even really in charge of the banks. Like if they said, well, we're going to take some complaints. We're going to investigate them. The people paid their penalty. The penalty's gone. Okay. Yeah. By the time you put a complaint, we're going to have a code of conduct. Well, okay, here's the code of conduct. Yeah, we're going to do our best, but mostly never. Mostly we won't do it. Like, it's just irrational. The thing I always say about this government that gets to me the most is too much theater. Like too much, hey, look at this brilliant proposal, and nothing happens. Like it's like the Housing Accelerator Fund. Like they have this, they put up this thing called the Housing Accelerator Fund. And the Housing Accelerator Fund was designed to create tons of new homes. Okay, we're going to really get behind it. When you dig into the Housing Accelerator Fund, it's actually bribes from municipalities just to do their jobs. Okay. Like, isn't it the job of a municipality to approve new building? Like, you'd want new building, right? Yeah. You want, okay, if this is an old, decrepit piece of shit hotel, let's build a new one. Okay. Yeah. And if this is if we can convert this single family home to a triplex and give more housing to people, we should do that. But isn't that the job of the goddamn city anyway? To try to promote the development of the city? Okay.
True. Very true.
And so this fund is billions of dollars to incentivize cities and towns to cut red tape. Which is to do with housing. When housing is their actual fucking jobs. You're bribing them to do their jobs properly, okay? And they're still not doing it, okay? Like, it's like some of these programs are just batshit crazy. Like, the $16 billion for Volkswagen to make batteries? $16 billion.
That's a lot of money.
A lot of money. Maybe a good idea. And I'm not mad at the battery plant. I'm not. We got to move ahead. It's good for the environment, good for climate change. God knows we need some help with climate change. And
it's hot today.
Very hot today. I don't think carbon tax is an answer, but it's hot today. But it's hot most summers in Toronto in July.
I don't know. When have we seen plus over 30 for weeks on end?
It's only been a week. Honestly, only been a week.
Really?
Yeah, it's only been a week. But it was the hottest day in the history of the world. They only started keeping track of it in 1970, I think it was 1983 or something.
Oh, okay.
But this was apparently yesterday was the hottest day in the history of the world, for the whole world.
What do you mean the world?
The whole world. Like they put together a system. I can't remember.
Like
93 or 2003, but there was a point where they put together a system.
We were at 33. Vegas was at like 108.
Yeah, exactly. But they linked every weather reporting system in the world together at a certain point, and it all feeds into one central point to say this is the temperature of the world today. Okay. And
it was hot.
It was the hottest in history. Since they started keeping track, this was the hottest yesterday, in the whole world. Okay. Now, the problem that we have is that there's just too many cooks, still too much red tape, and government by theater. Okay, this is all these proposals, these stories, they ran these out. It's theater. So here's what I mean by that. These higher rates also mean, again, this is the highest rates since 2007 right now.
Yep.
Also mean that it's higher rates for developers who build housing, whether it's purpose-built rentals or
but those costs, as you've said before, just get passed on to the consumer.
Well, that's the development cost. Yeah. That's crazy. 31% of every new home price, somehow the government got their chunk of that. 31% goes to the government. But this is even a little worse. When we keep raising rates, when rates keep going up, that means for the developer who might need 26 or 28 months to get to the point where they can actually, from the point of submitting the request to getting the permit, it could be like 2 years. So if they've got to finance their purchase of the property, the land to build on for 2 years in order to get started, just with the backhoe in the ground.
A lot of money.
And now they got the rates up substantially from the previous, as highest in 2007. Those developers are just going to say, you know what? Cancel the permit. Like, I'm not gonna, and we're seeing it. I'm going to make a bet that, and for people in the audience who use all those apps, you can use an app that keeps track of, remind me in a year or some shit like that. Okay, those apps. Go remind us in a year, but I'm going to make a bet that the housing starts, which are gone down in 2022 and are also going down this year. I guarantee you they're going to go down again in 2024. No matter how desperate we are for new homes, no matter how much the government promises.
Because it's not affordable to build them right now.
Because if the interest rates are too high and it takes too long to put the backhoe in the ground and every other thing is going against you, the developer just says stop. Oh, and by the way, when the interest rates are so high, the lenders look at the deals and say, we don't think you can make those payments, so we're just going to turn you down. You think you can make the payments? We think the rates are so high that you can't make the payments. Yeah. So we're just not giving you the money to buy the land. Okay. That's what the lender says. Okay. Wow. It is a tremendous, horrible problem. Okay. We're going to build less homes this year and then less homes, I bet, next year. And we got still these hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people coming. Okay.
Yep. And there's no slowdown to that in sight.
Which brings us back to this hellacious rental market we talked about for a minute ago. Okay, like it is hellacious. Okay, it is bad.
It's insane what you get for these prices now.
It's crazy.
To live above ground is $2,500 minimum, depending on where you are. Just to live above.
Just so that you're ground. Not in the basement.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Like it's staggering.
It's insane.
It's staggering. And that is a function of you just gotta lay it at the feet of government. You know, you bring in 1 million people to the province of Ontario in 2 years, and you don't build. Your building starts are actually going down, and you make it very hard for less. So let's face it, we know what inflation's been. Inflation's been around 10%, 8, 9, 10%, 7.5%, going down now, thank God. But we know what it was last year. So the government announces, for the rent-controlled places, you can have a 2.5% increase maximum.
Oh.
What the? I understand people need to keep the rents under control. I feel sorry for people. But if you're somebody who's getting a 20% increase on your mortgage, how is it that you're only going to manage a 2.5 increase on your rent?
Yeah.
Like that's difficult, right? That's but
extremely.
Government doesn't give a shit. Okay. No. Just move along here. Now, this is what we're up against. So, like you said, just to be above the dirt, not in the basement, $2,500 a month. So, people we know are looking to rent a whole house, like a full house, like a decent sized house, like 2,500 square feet, whatever. And the stuff is wild. I mean, like it's wild. They're telling me that if they don't put in the offer the day they look at it, it's gone.
For above asking, you're in competition with 3 other offers. You need to have cash up front, possibly more than just first and last. Sometimes they want you to secure 6 months, up to 6 months, which is totally illegal to ask for. But guess what? There's no fucking fucking houses out there. So if it's up to you and it's your choice, they can take it and do it.
And this is the beauty of it is they know that they don't have to ask, so they're doing nothing illegal because the guy who wants the house, desperate. He's going to bid it up. He's going to say, "Let me give you 6 months." Okay,
I've seen a year. I've seen a year. Some go, I need a house. Here's a year up front.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, this is bad news in Toronto and
that was $60,000 up front.
Bad news in Toronto. Bad news in the Lower Mainland of Vancouver, Fraser Valley. Bad news in the whole of Southwestern Ontario. Like I hear rents are through the roof in Hamilton, Niagara, everywhere in the Southwestern Ontario province. Rents are through the roof. So that's bad. And how bad is it though? Like, I mean, how really bad? I listened this morning to some pretty smart guys on a podcast, and one of the things that one of them said, and one of the guys was even a bigger geezer than me. I think he's like in his 70s or something, early 70s. But he said, well, the sign of a great country is that people are still coming here. But the truth is, I know some people who are coming here and then leaving. Okay, because they say this thing doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
This is just too expensive. So what else is going on in mortgage world? Well, the thing that we're
I
discovering.
think you can see it on our faces. We look fucking stressed.
We look stressed. We're stressed. We're stressed with these high rates. We're tired. We're stressed. Like these rates just keep on coming. People keep on phoning. Like, what am I going to do?
Again, I swear to you, I'm going to have the bottle of wine here next time.
Listen, the calls come in. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Okay. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And we get a little stressed. I mean, like, we get stressed from the fact that when everybody you're talking to isn't happy, like even I'll suggest to you that even some of the people buying houses right now aren't that happy. Okay. They're saying, we're glad we finally got it. We're happy that we got through this, but
we're going to make it work, but it's going to be
tight. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. And damn it, that shouldn't be the outcome. It should be a joyous moment when you buy a house, right?
Yeah, especially your first house.
Especially. But if it's, wow, we had to stretch so far, I feel like my arsehole is puckering. I'm so stretched. Okay. Yeah. Like it's bad. All right.
Well, it's past the pucker point.
Past the pucker point. If it's stretched, it's the opposite. Yeah. We're getting back to that stuff again. But like it's
grandma at home in Cornwall.
Yeah, so of course. Sorry, Cornwall grandma. It's another butthole story again. We're back to the no lube incident.
Yeah.
But like honestly, everybody you talk to about a renewal or about even like I said, some of the purchase people, it's just seems like it's bad news. You know, like nobody's pleased. Like that's the vibe I get from Ontario. Anyway, it's a vibe I think I'm getting from BC, and we haven't even seen some of the bulk of the renewals haven't even happened yet. They're still to come.
Oh, they're coming.
They're still coming.
Because when was craziness? Craziness was what, 2021?
2020 was pretty damn crazy. Second half was pretty damn crazy.
So like we've said, we'd probably see those in 2025.
Oh, and by the way, 2015, 2016 was pretty crazy. So that carries over into 2020. And that's the way the whole thing. This year is actually a low renewal year comparatively to others. It's one of the lower ones right now. Okay. So, but it's just going to keep coming at people. The other big story of the day that I think that we've got to address is that we've got trouble in realtor world. Like I know you know some realtors, and you know a lot of really established, successful ones. But I am getting this feedback that realtors are selling their houses because they're not doing well enough to get by. I've heard that
realtors
from
selling their own personal
houses, or they're letting their rentals go, and like it's because they've got the double whammy of high renewals coming in, and if you're a realtor and you had your record year in 2020, 2021, and that was all great, maybe part of 2022, this bad news of what's going on, some of the new ones are just packing it in.
Well, okay, how can I? So you've got your big teams.
Big teams, yeah.
And they've got sometimes 20, 30, I don't know how many agents working under them. The team leader, you've got your huge ones like, Sam McDaddy. I'm just talking Mississauga right now. Who's another big one? Loretta Finney.
Oh, there's all kinds. Fantastic. There's Leo the Lion. There's lots of big teams.
Yeah, no,
right?
there's super fantastic teams. So the market slowed down.
Really?
And for Joe Blow, realtor, works out of his basement, does it on the side, nights and weekends, this and that, maybe hits 2 or 3 deals a year. That's great. It's an extra whatever. I think it remains the same. But I think where it's hitting, and I'm sure we're not going to see these big realtors selling their houses.
No.
Their overheads are huge. So you still see them selling. Like, they sold this, sold that. But they have the huge offices and they have to feed these teams. I think you're going to see the teams get a little smaller. The overheads go down a little bit. Maybe we realize we don't need these huge offices because it definitely has slowed down. But as far as selling assets, I haven't heard of it.
No, seriously. No, seriously. I've had in the last 2 weeks, we've had 3 calls from realtors.
Really?
Okay, who said, yeah, we got to sell the rental, or I'm selling my own house. Well, the one case we had was a realtor was married to a mortgage broker. I mean, that's like terrible, right? Like they're both down, way down, in income. They're actually selling their owner-occupied home.
And going where, though?
Renting, paying the high rents, but they just can't handle it anymore. They just can't handle it. Yeah.
That's shocking.
Downsizing. Let's face it, if we're honest with ourselves, some people in the mortgage industry and some people in the real estate industry got a little over their heads in 2021.
Well, yeah, because we didn't think it was going to stop. We thought, let's get on this rocket ship and we're just going to go from universe to universe and it's just going to keep going up. What goes up comes down.
Yeah, so I think that's really a story.
So maybe that's like we've talked about the Lamborghini theory that you had.
Yeah, so is anybody?
Maybe that's a little piece of that.
You never take financial advice from anyone who drives a Ferrari. Okay, if you're driving a Ferrari, don't take the financial advice. Vince Gaetano, a friend of mine, he's got what he calls the Porsche Index. It's the number of Porsches in Ontario that are being given back to the lease company.
Oh.
Okay, so he said it's reached a new high as of this week. It's gone up. So, and this relates back to all the stuff that we talk about. There's signs of cracking in the financial system, but signs of pressure, signs of stress, but the jobs numbers just keep going up. Okay, so it's a puzzling time.
You said, and I think that's the point I was trying to make, and I think I ran around in a circle, is I wouldn't see it as a trend, as, realtors and mortgage brokers have to be selling their houses right now. The market's not that bad yet. There still is a living to be made. But
Patience. Patience.
I said yet.
Okay.
But you nailed it on the head when you said it's the people that maybe got a little over their heads. If 1 year you're making 60 grand and then you made 160, I wouldn't count on that 160 moving forward. You didn't take a magic serum and just learned how to do it.
Yeah, it's true. So we're running into really the best section of the show now.
Is it my favorite one?
It's your favorite.
What the actual fuck?
What the actual fuck is going on with the level? And this is a big argument, big source of argument, but I've got some extra intense exposure to it in the last 3 weeks. Just what is the level of foreign ownership of property in Vancouver and in the GTA? Okay. Just how much of it there is it? Because it's so friggin' weird. Same people who are looking for this rental property. Why are there so many fully furnished properties? Okay, and then you find out the real reason is why there's so many furnished properties. Like, who's got a rental property, like a house, a full house with the furniture in it? Like, what's the hell's going on there? I mean, it's like, and it's not short-term rental. It's 1 year, multi-year rental. And you find out, well, they just went back to Dubai. Yeah. They just went back to Dubai.
Didn't want to take their stuff.
Couldn't be bothered taking the stuff. Couldn't be bothered putting it in storage. So when you start to really get into the nitty-gritty of properties, particularly rental properties let's call the 905. Let's call it the 905, the area that surrounds Toronto. Remember, Drake calls it the 6. I guess it's the 416, right?
Is
the area code, right? Yeah. That's the area code, 416 into 6. I'm not really a rapper, so I'm not going to try to do Drake, okay? But the 905 is what
next what the fuck moment.
Yeah, that would be the real what the actual fuck moment is. Ron the rapper. Yeah, exactly. That's really crazy. But yeah, never. Never. So the 905, like, how many of these houses that are rented out or empty or whatever the case may be, how many are really owned by people who live somewhere else? Now, by the way, they may be
a tactic trying to get around.
No. It's not a tactic.
House tax?
No. It's not. Oh, yes, it is a tactic to get around vacant house taxes to rent someplace furnished. Okay, but what really strikes me is that for years and years and years, we always said that the ownership of these foreign homes, the foreign ownership was minimal. It's minimal.
It's not that minimal.
It's not minimal. And when you and let's face it, another fact too is that a lot of these people are actually Canadian citizens or permanent residents, but they just went back home. They just left.
Why not?
Okay, and people get mad about me when I say this because they say, "Oh no, it's just a bunch of racist bullshit." Okay,
it's nothing to do with race.
It's nothing to do with race. It's about houses.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we have had too much experience of people coming to Canada, becoming permanent residents, buying properties, and then saying, "Oh, things are not what I expected here. I'm going back to Dubai and I'll just rent the place out. Well, what I keep trying to explain to people over and over and over again is this. If people come here and everything about the house is an investment to them, they're actually willing to pay a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the thing that nobody understands. The marginal price that people paid in the past, whether they bid up an extra $20,000 and the house used to be $750 and now it's $770. And then the next guy comes along and says, well, I'll bid $800. And this incremental marginal increase lifts the property values and lifts the comparables and lifts the amount of prices that people are paying who live here their entire lives and will die here. Okay. Yeah. But a bunch of people can just say, well, I'm going back to Dubai, going back to Middle East, going back to Britain. We had people who just bought rental property and left immediately for London, England.
Perfect.
Okay. And people who've gone back to
where the euro kicks our ass.
I don't know enough about currency to tell you, but where a lot of people say, well, we're going back to, something's happened back home. We got to go back to Guangzhou. We got to go back there, help, increase the volume at the factory that my dad owns, and they're gone. Okay. And sweet Jesus, this is, the idea that when you go to the States and you find all these houses in medium-sized cities that are 65% less, hell, Chicago, big town, every single property at every status bracket, whether it's the finest neighborhood in Chicago or the worst neighborhood in Chicago, every single house is 65% less.
Yeah.
Every single house is 65% cheaper than Ontario, like Southwestern Ontario. And you say to yourself, there is nobody going back to Dubai in Chicago. Nobody is. Okay. These are, when you spend time in Chicago, you realize these are all just people who live here.
Yes.
They're all just people who live here. Some of them bought rentals, yeah, but they're also living in the same city that their rentals are in. They're not in Dubai. They're not in Guangzhou. They're not in wherever the hell they're at. Okay. They're not in London, England. Yeah. Okay. And that's my what the actual fuck mistake have we made that we imported a landlord class and then had them leave. Okay. Like, it's just kind of a social experiment because it never happened before. If you think about how immigration to Canada was for the first 175 years, it was people who came here, in most cases, dirt poor, wanting to build up their new country that they came to. They're going to work and leave the old country behind and build up the new country. Okay. But
now we have people coming in with serious money behind them. In some cases don't have to work because now they're just a landlord collecting huge money on properties with no mortgage.
But they also have
just an income now.
They also have a business in Dubai,
or
they have a business in London or whatever it is. Okay. And they just go back. And here's the thing. And this is the thing. Like, if we think about the people who've come here, who still are coming here today that are poor, whether it's the people from the Punjab who are coming here on student visas and they'll probably stay here, and they get their permanent residence status.
Or we talk about the refugees and whatnot.
No, you set aside. And by the way, welcome to the refugees. I think almost every one of those Ukrainian refugees is working right now. Okay. But let's talk about the students, international students from the Punjab who come here and they will eventually get their degree and they will eventually stay here and work here. And they are not rich. They are shocked by the money they're having to pay out for rent.
Yeah, for sure.
They're suffering, but these are people who will work 3 jobs. Okay. Nobody who came here, bought a house, and decided to go back to Dubai was working 3 jobs.
No.
Not one single one of them.
No.
Okay. And again, you can throw the racist shit around. I don't care. I'm just telling the truth. Like that when people come here today to work the 3 jobs, I guarantee you they're going to contribute to the community of Canada.
Oh, definitely.
They're going to work hard. They're going to raise a family. They're not going back anywhere. Some of them might be forced to by the incredibly high rents and incredibly high prices. But we've got to realize that over the last 20 years, this concept of people coming into a country, buying up the houses, renting them and leaving, or whatever the case may be, but the idea of bidding up the price of houses, because I keep coming back to my Quebec story, where they highly limit immigration, there's the house prices are half. Okay. half of Ontario. So this idea that people would have come here, bought homes, and left, and now they're renting them out, that's fine. I'm glad that part's contributing. Mm-hmm. But holy mackerel, that has pushed our prices up, and the pushing of prices up is probably the worst thing that's happened to this province, but both British Columbia and Ontario, which, by the way, half the people in Canada live in those two provinces when you put them together. It's been nothing but bad news. Like, some people did profit, of course, but as we sit back now and our kids have to think about, and everybody's kids are going to have to start thinking about, people in their 20s and 30s are going to have to think about how they're going to buy a house. It's not done us any good. No. And I don't know how to reverse it, but it ain't a positive thing, in my opinion. All right, that's it. Next week, we're going to have the reaction to the Bank of Canada announcement, and that's going to be an interesting show.
There may be wine involved.
There may be wine involved. Thanks, folks.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.